Hey everybody, Trent Butler here. This is the very first edition of Trent Talks on Fox 54, and we are pleased to have Gary Richardson here. Many of you locally know him with the Columbia County Commission, several leadership roles there, and now he is also serving House District 125 in the Georgia House. And Gary, it's great to have you here. It's wonderful for you to be here in our brand new digital suite. And you know, one of the topics that many people have asked me about lately is they want to know about the status of Georgia and sports betting. As you know, I'm sure you've been hearing from both sides, from both camps. 38 states and the District of Columbia have now legalized it. If you will, let's start off the conversation by filling people in on what happened during the latest session. I know some of the bills were drafted in regards to sports betting and resolutions and whatnot. Where are we on that issue?
Trent, I want to thank you, first of all, for having me in today. I appreciate the
Sure.
time. And yes, sports betting has been a hot topic for the last few years. I got elected in a special election last year. And so I was up there in the last couple of days, and it was a hot topic, but it never
Right.
made it to the floor. I did go to a couple of the committee meetings and you know, heard some of the concerns, pro and against. So
Right.
So I did get my feet wet on that. But last year there was a lot of conversation about the sports betting coming back, and it didn't make it to the floor again. So I think it will again be a hot topic. It will continue to be a hot topic. There's a lot of people that think that that's something that Georgia needs to do. I think there's a lot of people in Georgia that are doing some online sports betting now. Not that it's supposed to be, but
Right.
there's ability to do that, and so it's being done now. So what does that mean? It means that there will be a lot of money that could come into the state through the sports betting if it does pass. To pass in the state of Georgia, it's going to have to be a constitutional amendment.
Right.
So it'll take 2/3 of the House to move that bill forward. So that's 120 votes. So and I think I don't think the votes have been there because it has never moved forward.
And let me ask you, why do you think Georgia hasn't been able to get that 2/3 majority? You see some of the neighboring states, North Carolina, obviously not a neighbor to Georgia, a bordering state, but a state in close proximity, Tennessee, states like that, Mississippi, they've okayed it. Why do you think Georgia hasn't gotten to that 2/3 threshold?
I just think there's still a lot of concerns and what it'll do to local economies, rural economies. I think there's a concern from, addiction to gambling. When I was, like I stated earlier, that first committee meeting I went into, they were stating that 25 to 30% estimated will have gambling problems. I think that's a lot, a lot of people. And if you're starting off fresh that you're going to dole out millions of dollars to fight the problems with gambling, I think there's a lot of local rural community folks that just have concerns with that.
Right. Now, in fact, a lot of pastors will quote Romans 14:13, make your mind not to put any stumbling block or obstacle in the way of a brother or sister, for example. And I understand that argument. When I talk to people who support the legalization of sports gambling, they'll say there's no doubt that it's addictive. You see people who lose their fortune or their savings doing it. Then they'll say, Gary, alcohol's addictive, pain pills are addictive, smoking is addictive. To them, what is the difference is as long as there's help out there available, and there's Gamblers Anonymous. There are campaigns to educate people about the dangers of gambling. They say that the advantages of the amount of revenue that would come into the state of Georgia, they're estimating 115 to 150 million, depending on who you listen to. And whether or not that's accurate, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And you hear those arguments, well, these other things are addictive. Why shouldn't we allow the voters to decide for themselves?
Well, again, like you said, I personally didn't have a vote on any of the alcohol, the
Right.
smoking. There's a study committee this year on the effects of smoking, and there's a lot of costs that go along with the negative aspects of smoking. There's
Sure.
a lot of costs that go with the any addiction, and it costs the state a lot of money. I think you're taking a lot of money again out of the economy. If somebody is spending, I don't know what people spend on gambling, but if you've got a gambling problem, I don't think you're probably out going and investing in new cars, new
Or even buying
boats,
your family groceries.
your family groceries or whatever. So I think all of that has to be considered.
Right.
In my mind, and the part that really concerns me is if that much money is being spent on it, why can't the state of Georgia figure that out? Why can't the state of Georgia figure out how to run that and keep that money
Right.
instead of the money going
Right.
to
Well,
wherever it goes?
and they'll say, you hear unbelievable totals of the amount of illegal sports betting that is happening. We know it's happening. We know just the amount is, the estimated amounts are staggering. I'm not going to quote them because they're all over the map.
Right.
So you hear they will say, well, why can't the state of Georgia regulate this and benefit from the tax revenues? And I've heard, we're leaving, like I said, between 115 and 150 million dollars, on the table that other states are getting from people who are crossing over to bet legally. If we could use the money they say for a Hope Scholarship, I'm sure you hear that argument too.
Well, I do, and that's what the Georgia Lottery was based on. And we put a lot of money, millions and millions and millions, and a lot of people have benefited from that.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have lost a lot of their livelihood over it also. So
Sure.
I think it really has to be weighed out, both sides, and it's a big decision to.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, since it is one of those issues where you can see arguments from both sides, should we just let the voters decide? I mean, do you think we're at a point where one poll I saw, most people in the last election were saying they would prefer to have at least the opportunity to vote on it in a referendum?
I think a lot of people probably would like to have that, but a lot of people don't educate themselves on some of the things, on some of the votes, and then
the fine print,
and then they're hearing their friends or whatever saying whatever.
Right.
And the part that concerns me, betting on a football game or a baseball game or something is one thing, but when you can bet on every play, every pitch, every shot, that becomes
and there's no way to limit on what people can bet on. Once you open up that can, they're going to have. You open Pandora's box, they can bet on anything, right?
As long as you have the resources, from my understanding, you may have a credit limit, or you may have.
But what you can vote on the coin flip of a football game. You can vote on how many sacks they're going to get in a football game, that sort of thing.
I hear you.
Yeah,
and
or who's going to sing the national anthem? Things like that, right?
You can obviously you can bet on any and everything,
right?
But when it's out front, and I'm not trying to sit here today and and say, yes, I'm opposed, or yes, I'm for, or what. I'm trying to have the discussion with you.
Right.
And I want to have.
To educate.
To educate people, to educate the concerns. I personally have heard more from people that are not in favor.
And are
online.
there arguments worried about the addiction possibilities?
That is
Is that the primary reason?
The primary reason,
Okay.
addiction, and people, if I'm addicted, it's my family that suffers. And I think that's the concern when your kids
Right.
and
You know,
grandkids and whatever.
Another thing my wife brought up this morning was the fact that you know how football crazy this area is, whether it's Georgia, I'm a UGA grad, she's a UGA grad, but Clemson, South Carolina, you name it.
Georgia Southern, let's don't
Georgia
leave them
Southern,
out.
we love Georgia Southern. I remember Irk Russell back
Oh, my
in the
goodness,
day.
do we?
But obviously college football is king here.
It is.
There's no question. And she was wondering about how that would affect the world of college football. We do now have NIL. We have the players are starting to get paid. The marquee players, not all the players, but you think about the possibilities of having sports betting bleed into college athletics because, sure, people would bet on the Falcons, but the interest in Clemson, Carolina, Georgia Tech, Georgia Southern, it would bring on a whole nother.
Do you think that some of these young kids could get pulled in from a different level if somebody?
Well, she was worried about them throwing games.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. And we hear this. Sports is for entertainment, and we hear some of these things where certain calls or certain things that weren't legit.
Right.
And, this is all about entertainment. Well, when you putting your resources down, I don't know that that's for entertainment. Or for some people it may be for entertainment. For some people it may be to pay the light bill.
Right.
And
you don't want that to be the case when whether or not your family eats or whether or not you have power is predicated on whether or not the Falcons cover the spread. That's a scary thought.
That's exactly right.